Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Welfare Clinic, the show where we talk about various issues affecting the local community. And today we're going to talk about health. Health is one of the biggest issues affecting our community today, young or old. And my guest today has significant experience in that particular field. She has worked for many years as a local GP and also the secretary of Keep Our NHS Public in Tower Hamlets. It's Dr. Anna Livingstone. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you and assalamu alaikum everyone.
You obviously worked for many years in Tower Hamlets and so we're going to talk about a number of issues today. But one of the issues that I want to start off with is the Keep Our NHS Public. You as a secretary of Keep Our NHS Public in Tower Hamlets, why is it so important that we keep our NHS public, and why cannot it be run by a private organisation or any other organisation who wants to run some of our health service or GP surgeries?
Well, in some ways the answer is extremely obvious. If you have a certain amount of money that you're going to spend on health and you spend half that money on the profits for a private company, you have half as much money to spend on health. When the health service was set up after the Second World War, and Irene Bevan, who was responsible in the Labour Party then for setting it up, was behind this because it was so unequal the way that healthcare as well as health was within the population. Poor people were iller and didn't have healthcare in the same way as rich people. And when I went into practice as a GP in the 1980s, there were still GPs who told me about how terrible it was in those days, and in many countries in the world, including America.
But many people tell us the private, the health service run by a private organisation sometimes is much better than run by the public services. Then what would be your argument in that?
My answer to that would be that if you look at the UK, private healthcare in the past has only been available to the very rich. So the private service that they've got is the Harrods or the expensive shop, the gold shop of healthcare with the pot plants, the private rooms, everybody being very nice to them. But we know that there is the bottom of the market as well, and the government at the moment wants to have a privatised health care here and privatised healthcare internationally to make large profits, international companies to make large profits from this, and for both people working in the health service and people who need the health service to have worse quality care and in the end to pay for a lot of it. Only today we heard about possible paying for GP appointments, for example, and they're making many things you used to be able to get in the NHS, things that you
That's
can't.
one of the things I was going to ask you, because there has been a discussion for last few days, especially in some of the medias, in terms of whether people should pay £5 or £10 for every visit they make to their GP. And obviously I wanted to get what your view on that.
We know that when you introduce fees like that, the people who need health care avoid it because of the fees, and those are usually the poorer people. And also it makes the relationship between the nurse or doctor and the patients completely wrong, because people feel that they are buying a service, and that if the doctor gives them something else or advises them not to use something, it will be because it's because of profit or for some reason like that.
But is it not fair? So if somebody was earning £200,000 a year, is it not fair to ask them to pay £10? That's some of the arguments will come along.
We ask people to pay more money in their tax. I, for example, as a doctor, pay more tax than I would if I was a ward cleaner, and that's entirely fair. And that's how we can have a fair health service. We know that when people have to pay, that it's an unequal service and a worse service for the poor. And we can see that in dentistry in Britain, where people have had to pay for a lot of services. I, for example, being old, have had treatment on my gums,
I didn't think you was
which is not available on the NHS in our local area. And I would not have been able to have that service on the NHS. Now, that is an outrageous situation. We need a public dental service as well that is available to everyone.
And what has Keep Our NHS have achieved so far in terms of their campaign or the work that they have done?
Well, I think one of the important things is making public what is being done to the health service. The Whitechapel Hospital, the London Hospital Whitechapel, was proposed by the Tories about 20 years ago plus to be rebuilt as a private finance initiative hospital. What that meant is they could pretend that the national debt did not increase, but borrow money very expensively from their friends in banks and international moneylenders who would make profits out of it. When the economy went up, the building started. We needed a new hospital around here. The London Hospital was still there from the 18th century and very run down, as local people who went there would know. But we did not need all this money to be wasted privately, and we have highlighted that nationally and locally. The cost of the hospital is going to cost, in terms of repaying the debt, £7 billion, and the actual cost of the hospital is only £1 billion. So £6 billion are going from our local health service into the private sector. Now, we are campaigning against that. We and many other people are campaigning against that, because that is not a way to fund the health service. And
how can people get involved if our viewers listening today, if they want to get involved or they want to participate, how can they get involved?
Well, the government also passed passed an act in 2012 which made the health service not obliged to give everybody care. I think people can get involved in many ways. They can get involved by joining demonstrations about the health service. They can get involved by pressurising their MPs, by electing representatives around who support a public health service. They can get involved through their trades unions in campaigning. There are many different ways, and I think together we are strong, and most people in Britain, even in the Tory party, want to have a national health service that they can use and don't want money wasted in this way.
Thank you. There's a number of issues that we can talk about when it comes to health, but one of the issues that I wanted to pick up today is about betel nuts, what we call pan, which is very common among the South Asian communities, which cause mouth cancer, different type of illness. What would be your advice to our viewers in terms of chewing betel nuts?
Well, my general advice is that tobacco is very dangerous for our health in terms of heart disease and cancer and so on. And gua fan is dangerous partly because people use shada and zorda tobacco with it, but it's also dangerous in itself because it creates an increased risk of mouth and throat cancer, and also it creates a risk of gastric. And so
a lot of people find it extremely difficult to give up. It's not a form of drugs, but it's equivalent to addiction.
Yes,
when people when you start chewing pan with tobacco and stuff like that, it becomes very worrying, because then they're not able to give up their addiction.
I agree with you. In fact, when I was young, Doctor, I went to India, and I had never really noticed it in Tower Hamlets then, and I couldn't understand why everybody had TB and was coughing up blood all over the floor. And actually it was their pan that they were spitting out that had made the red stains on the ground. But with the tobacco stopping cigarette programs, a lot of people, and in the general practice where I work that's the case, a lot of people who use a lot of shada and zorda tobacco find that they can give up quite easily by joining the tobacco stopping program and having either patches containing nicotine tobacco to stick on, or things to chew, or a combination of them, or nose sprays, because a lot of the addiction is not actually to the pan but to the tobacco that is contained within it. And there is a special program which the Public Health Department in Tower Hamlets run called the BME Stop Tobacco Project. And
that's also for people chewing pan
that's
and
for
tobacco?
Mainly for people chewing pan. Rafia Begum Rukib is a public health worker who's very involved in this. And there are phone numbers I can give people if they want to ring. So if you are a woman and you want support from the project, you can ring 020 7882 8669. That is 020 7882 8669. And if you are a man, you can ring 020 7882 8660. That's 020 7882 8660. Or you can ask your nurse or your doctor or the person who's the smoking advisor in the practice, and they can also make referrals, and they can also help you. And
so
many of our
it's
patients
a separate one, obviously. So where some women may feel uncomfortable going and sharing or seeking advice among the men, so they can go and seek advice, separately. And I think obviously we know there's a significant number of people are being affected as a result of it. So I think it's very useful, and I'm sure our viewers will find it very, very useful.
And I want to tell people that if they get a white place or an ulcer, sore, lumpy place inside their mouth or on their lips, and they have been chewing tobacco or then it's very important to go to the dentist and get it checked out.
It's important. The other issue that I want to talk about, which is going to be everywhere next week, is the junior doctors. The junior doctors, they work extremely hard day in, day out, and I think often we don't realize how hard junior doctors actually work. And we know they have been enormously under attack because of their terms and conditions and other issues that are affecting them. And next week, Tuesday, they are going on a strike, which is going to be a national news, and I'm sure every single media outlet will pick it up. And I know you've been heavily involved with junior doctors and in their campaign. Why is it doctors going on a strike, knowing that it will affect the general public if they go on a strike?
Well, what's very interesting is that the attacks by the present government on our public services, on our hospitals, on our health service, on our welfare benefits, housing, local councils and so on, have been so severe that a group of people who are not well known for being active trades unionists striking, doctors and junior doctors, but also senior doctors, are extremely upset and angry with the government and have become much more aware, first of all, of the essential purpose, how we really need our National Health Service, and secondly, how people working in it need good working conditions in order to continue at work. Now, the government has told the junior doctors that they will have to work right up to 3 in the morning with no extra pay. They are taking away all the regulations that will stop people having to work very long hours. When I was a junior doctor at the London Hospital Whitechapel, my first job was 120 hours a week. And it was exhausting. We just went to sleep all the time. We had no personal lives. We were not always safe on the wards. And we do not want to go back to that time. Junior doctors already work at weekends. They already work long shifts. But they are nothing compared with what the government wants to make them do. And they're also trying to take away rights from women who have maternity leave, trying to make them go backwards in their career. Doctors who, many doctors and the borough doctors...
But they can't legally do that, can they?
They can make it difficult when people go back into work by not giving them career progression properly. And that's one of the things that has been threatened. They also making it more difficult for people to maintain an income if they've worked in the university part of the hospital. And I don't know that people know, but a lot of our most senior and respected doctors and our junior doctors at the Royal London Hospital and Barts Health are actually university members of Queen Mary, where they do research. And those doctors will be very badly punished by the pay system too. They're making it really dangerous for us as patients if the government get this legislation through, this new contract.
So I think it's essential the public is aware of, and they show their solidarity and support with the junior doctors, because if we start losing our doctors, then our lives will be even more at risk.
Exactly, and people have seen, I expect, the huge demonstration of 20,000 junior doctors on the street with slogans such as "Save us to save our patients and save our NHS, no to contract." This is not more money for us. This is, we need a safe service and we need a family life and a normal life to work in the service. So I think this is a really important time. And when has there been a strike where which happened with a postal ballot. People voted. People didn't vote in a meeting. 98% of them, that's 98 out of 100, voted for the strike. And 3/4 of them took place in the vote. This is unheard of in the history of British trades unions. The doctors are really together and behind this, as are the students, who are going to suffer even more from this. And the problem is people are leaving. People are feeling they don't want to go to medical school. The applications are down. And it's even worse for nurses, because they're not only attacking doctors. The government in Osborne's last statement said they were taking away bursaries for nurses. Now, most nurses are going into nursing later in life. So
I take it you'll be at the picket line.
I will certainly be on the doctors' picket line, and I would ask people to come and support the NHS, and we will be outside for people in Tower Hamlets, and different areas have different things, but we will be outside Whitechapel Tube Station at 7:45 in the morning on Tuesday morning. We as Keeper NHS Public,
that's next
we will
Tuesday.
be joining the picket, and there will be pickets all day outside the hospital, and the doctors will be meeting. They have something they call Meet the Doctors, so that members of the public can come and talk to them, ask them about it and so on, and there will be groups of them all over London doing that.
Thank you very much, Anna, for coming to the show. And on behalf of our viewers, we would like to actually show our appreciation and thanks to yourself and other doctors who does such an important work on behalf of millions of people right across the country. So thank you very much for coming, and I'm sure some of the information that you have given today to our viewers will be extremely useful to them. So thank you to coming to the show.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, you have heard from Dr. Anna Livingstone on various matters. Also, I think the health is very important to all of us, regardless of our age or where we come from. It's also important to keep it public. If it goes into private hands, as you have heard today, your service will decline. You might not get the best possible service that you can. And I think it is also important, as you also heard from Dr. Livingstone, that we support our doctors who actually provide outstanding service to British public in general. And we all know that it affects us one way or another, whether we take our relatives or ourselves to A&E or to a hospital, we often get seen by the junior doctors first. So I think it is important that we show our support and solidarity. I hope this show has been useful to you, and some of the information Doctor has given that will come handy to you and your families. Thank you very much for watching the show.